Our next speaker is Mr. Daryl Haegley. Daryl has over 30 years of experience in the military, federal, and commercial consulting worlds. And he's currently overseeing cybersecurity efforts to secure control systems and operational technology for the DoD. He leads DoD's policy, security assessments, cyber range capabilities development, the SecDef scorecard, which all of you who have participated in gets to be a bear, the risk management framework process improvements. He's a contributing author to the NIST 800-82, Release 2, which is focused very much on the ICS world. He currently has 4 different certifications, 3 master's degrees, 2 college loans, and he's got 1 patent. So I'd like you to welcome Daryl to the stage. Thank you.
All right, if I can, I'd like everyone to use their own infrastructure here for just a second. Stand up. You don't have to use your critical infrastructure, just your infrastructure. Just stand up, add some blood flowing, and okay, have a seat. Just to shake it out there. So one of our most senior leaders probably doesn't want to be attributed for saying this quote, so I won't mention the name. But let's say you're in a meeting and your boss says this. So how excited are you about that? Okay, are you ready to go? Absolutely, right? Bring it on. But in the cyber world, that kind of last week has already potentially come to pass. And when we hope that we're ready, maybe we're not just yet. It was great hearing the conversation before about a lot of the cyber challenges, and whether for good or bad, I'm going to throw a little bit more on you. Who here has kind of suffered through one of my control system presentations before? Just so I get a sense. Oh my gosh, bunch of new folks. All right, great. Because one of the things that I found is that when you start talking control systems, you start looking at infrastructure, not a lot of people are really addressing this just yet. It's not on the forefront of STEM. It's not taught in a lot of colleges, universities yet. It's not part of the main focus for training with cybersecurity. So I'm hoping to appeal to you to help change that. And I think all of you will find that you are in a great position to do just that. All right, so in the Department of Defense, so I work right now, we're going through a reorganization, but I work with the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy, Installations, and Environment. How well renowned is that group for cybersecurity? No, it's like, who is that? And we're going through a reorganization. We're going to be now under the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Sustainment, and we're still trying to plot a course on where cybersecurity belongs in there. But over the last several years, we've had a couple of working groups convening to try and figure out, what are we going to call this, right? Who here has heard of platform information technology, right? So is it infrastructure a platform? Or is a weapon system a platform? Well, sure, I understand a Joint Strike Fighter certainly is. But what about a building? What about a antenna or other kind of infrastructure? There's control systems. There's industrial control systems. Okay, so you've heard of those. Operational technology, some of that has been made. Has the Department of Defense defined operational technology? Does anybody know? No, they haven't. Right? So how long has it been out there? It's been defined by Gartner, but the Department of Defense has not adopted that as information technology and operational technology. But we know that not anything that's not an information system could be in there. Same thing with cyber physical systems. Who's heard of those? NIST has put that out. Those are kind of control systems with smarts. So can we call everything a cyber physical system? What about some of the older systems that don't have some of those advanced capabilities in it? And then Internet of Things. You know, how many How many people know a building manager or an energy manager, facility engineer, thinks that they are managing the Internet of Things? Absolutely not, right? But wait, you have a smart meter, right? So then, oh yeah, that's categorized, but then how much training have they had in that? And then the industrial Internet of Things. And as we've gone out over the last several years and taken a look at a number of our 500 installations, 250,000 buildings, 200,000 linear structures, we have found that a majority of these systems are still using no longer supported operating systems. The Navy has said that 70% of their control systems are still serial devices. So, and who's got a solution to protect all those? I mean, if you got it, we'll certainly add that to the list. So essentially here you've had two networks, the IT folks, the information system folks, they've been doing a great job, right? Who here is able to read their encrypted email right now? Sitting there while you're listening to me. Okay, some of you. And then you've got another phone with other email. Who has not been able to get their email for a day? One, oh, wow, a couple people. Was that by choice? Did you not respond to the IT people ready to help you? So this has been a robust, fielded, training, certifiable group for years, right? What about these other systems? And when we design something, are we including cybersecurity in the design? So for those people who have never seen a program logic controller, that's what it looks like. Okay, right there in the middle. It's not that scary, although it is not part of any information technology or information systems training. Right? So your CIO team is not asking you to deal with these yet. There's one side's got the Ethernet port and the other side's got copper wires. So what's the policy in securing those? I mean, there are documents out there to help you with that, but again, whose role is it? And when you take a look at all these different functional areas, I mean, this is within the Department of Defense, they all have these. Maybe they're not the exact same make and model, but they have these program logic controllers with unsupported operating systems. Right? So whose job is it to secure those? We'll talk about that. All right, so just take a look at what is the sophistication of attacks. You go from insiders to nation state. And one of the things that we're trying to do is, I was asked before, are we just going to do resilience? Well, we need to prioritize, and we have to get things from, in that corner, there's kind of that risk matrix there of, what is the impact, okay, from low to high across the bottom, and then what is the threat level of effort. So something that has no impact and is easy for the adversary to do is in the lower left and it's green, right? We don't have to spend a lot of time on those. But the things that takes no effort to do, I'm sorry, the other way around, right? Yeah, it's high for the adversary to do and low impact, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. That's the lower left green. But then you go up the scale and it takes almost no effort for an adversary to have a great impact. We need to start focusing on those. We need to identify where those are. And then we need to put in things in place, solutions, mechanisms in place to shift from that upper right corner with red down to yellow and manageable and green. It was mentioned earlier as a fact that we've had from DHS ICS CERT that most adversaries have not been detected for 245 days. And that's a great number. The number used to be over 400. Who would like to go tell our boss, well, we are way better than the average right now. We only found out that the adversary's been on our network for 200 days. Well, we're doing great. So who do you have out looking at these networks and making sure that these adversaries are not in place? Who here works in a building? Okay, some of you don't. A tent or igloo or something? Okay, so most of us work in buildings. Some of us are now working in new buildings with a lot of connected systems in it, having a lot of these different things, making your life easier, making the environment more comfortable, saving money on how much energy is being consumed. And typically, there are 3 networks that would support a large office building. Has anybody been to the Mark Center along 395? Okay, so we moved into that in 2010. How many cybersecurity requirements do you think were in place on the networks to run these when that thing was designed and built? Just any answer, just any single-digit answer that you got, right? That's right. Looks like a donut hole, right. So, but we're still running that today. All right, so anyway, so there are typically in a lot of these buildings, in here you'll have 3 different networks. You'll have one that, for 6,000 to 7,000 people in this building that we have here, you'll have a security operation center, a SOC, and they're managing the gates, guns, and guards. They're managing the badge reader systems. They're managing cameras, right, for security. And to support about 7,000 people, they're running about 13,000 devices. Okay? And when you leave there, now you're going to go to the Network Operations Center. You thank them for the donuts because they have donuts. They're police officers. All right, sorry. All right, so now we go to the Network Operations Center, and they have about 25,000 devices in terms of supporting, your information systems, your NIPR, SIPR, JWICS, routers, and all that kind of stuff, data center equipment. And then, as you can tell by the scale, you leave there, and then you go to the Network Operations Center, and they are monitoring 50,000 devices. How cool is that, right? So, thankfully, they are all doing a good job in saving and saving money and making sure we are LEED certified in gold, silver, platinum, and saving a lot of money. But what have we done from a security perspective? We have some challenges there. So how easy is it to manipulate? Do you mind running this video? So he has an older phone, and he was just able to tap into the network of the building and turn off the lights. Sorry, this one doesn't have a subtitle, so unless you spoke Scandinavian language, you wouldn't have been able to understand it anyway. So he put a lot of these videos on YouTube, right? So he hacked the bridge, he hacked the building, he hacked the airline terminal, right? So what do you think happened to him? First, he got arrested. He got arrested for 48 hours, then he was hired, right? So now he's a well-meaning consultant, right? So how easy is this to do in the building that you work? And if it's a leased building, does that give you the get out of I care card? Or get out of worry card? I don't think so. I just can't tell you the number of places I've been to where they'll say, well, this is leased. There's nothing I can do. I tell you, if all the tenants say, I want a secure solution in here, I need it to be as non-hackable, they'll do it, okay? All right, so and I know a lot of people recognize that cybersecurity is challenging, and I know GMU is teaching some courses here. So who here watches NCIS? All right, you can admit it. No one's going to record it. All right, some of it's good, some of it's bad. I don't know if anybody has seen this video. Let's see if we got audio on this one. All right, maybe not. But anyway, so watch closely as she's claiming she's getting hacked, and now she needs help to figure it out. How do you respond? Well, you just jump in, you work together. That's teamwork. And this guy thinks it's a video game. Enjoyed a sandwich. And they're not sure what's going on. They just see all this, and then all of a sudden it stops. And they don't know how. And they find out the simple solution, right? Unplugging it, right? That's all you need to do. So any GMU students here? Couple? Are they teaching you to go in tandem on the keyboard? You know, there's some things you regret in life, and I know that I had a choice in high school to either go into typing class or woodshop. And I chose woodshop, and I made the best shoe shine kit for my dad, and he still has it at 80 years today. I'd never be able to do that, right? I wish I had taken typing so that I'd be able to join forces there. So just for those who haven't figured it out, that is not the correct way to do that, let alone not even look at the keyboard while you do half of it. So cybersecurity is tough. It's not that crazy. We should expect to learn what we really need to deal with. All right. So some of the things that have happened here recently, you saw some of the other data. That was a great report. We've had ransomware attacks across 150 countries. We've had NotPetya, which is malware that has again affected a shipping company. 76 port terminals, bunch of losses. They needed to buy 4,000 new servers, 4,500 new PCs, and install 2,500 new apps. How long do you think you're going to get? How long do you think it's going to take to get 45,000 new computers? And do you think the cyber insurance, which they had, has got that covered? Well, it turns out, because I went to a briefing, the insurance said, well, since you're buying new ones, they're better than your old ones, so it's more of an upgrade. So we'll give you like 10% or something. So you're going to read, again, the fine print on all insurance policies, but now especially in some of these cybersecurity ones. But anyway, so one of the things, a lot of these, and then of course the Trisus one that went after a Saudi Arabian oil and gas company but failed because there was a problem with the malware loading. A lot of these, though, we're finding are targeting one thing or just being tossed out there, and then you've got collateral issues or other originally unintended consequences. So what can you do to make sure that you're not part of that? And then recently, a lot of people who've been in the intelligence community have kind of heard this, but the presence is so prolific that we decided to make it public. Okay, so we have to be on the lookout of what's going on our infrastructure. So one of the other great discussion that was earlier is artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum computing, blockchain. What are two things all of those are going to absolutely depend upon to make them run? They're going to need power. And what else? People. Wetware. We can do without people. Haven't you seen Terminator? No? All right, so we'll need some people. But fundamentally, you're going to need some coolant, right? You're going to need water. So you're going to need water and power. And if you didn't spend any time securing the water and power sources to your precious crown jewels, how effective are you going to be implementing those? So take a look at those as you are implementing your projects and programs. Just a couple other things to amplify the reports. Dragos, their year report, is talking that we've got more specific tech targeting now of especially HMI, the human-machine interface, and numbers there on loss of control and loss of access. The April 2018 report, talks a lot of what they're motivated to do, that they're compromising, they're just not going after one, they're going after a broad swath, and then, a pretty big increase on control system vulnerabilities. And U.S. is, hey, yeah, we're number one in that category. So another one here, CyberX asked, they did a review of 375 networks to look at how well they're doing to protect those. And, you know, the number one there is plain text passwords. Now, if I ask people if they're still using a plain text password, nobody's going to raise their hand. However, everywhere we go, we find them. And so why is that? Well, because there haven't been implemented policies and oversight in this area, and there's nobody checking up on them. Nobody's asking, hey, our control systems that are running the HVAC cooling systems to make sure our servers are running all the time, does that have a plain text password? Is that connected to the internet? Just ask those simple questions there. And then, you know, a lot of times where we go, again, we're finding, oh, there's an air gap. Well, no, there's not. Well, I didn't know that was connected there. I didn't know the vendor still had a connection to monitor for warranty. Yeah, they do. A lot of them have some of these old phone connections that directly go back and let them know what's going on. So here's another one about, these were some of the most popular or most profitable defense industrial-based companies that work for the Department of Defense. And they're still using password as a password. So what can we do? Can we just put out policy and say, everybody change your password? Right? We talked about earlier cyber hygiene. That would be great if we get implemented. But who's going to do it? Who's going to follow up? Who in your organization is following up to determine that these things are not part of what your company does? Has anybody heard of Shodan? I would imagine a lot of people now have. We've put this together. If you have not, I definitely recommend you look this up. You see some of the reports. Essentially, it is a fun tool to find everything that's connected to the internet. So in here it says the search engine for, I stopped at buildings because I'm a buildings person, but you can go into hospital devices. You can go into cameras. You can go into garage door openers, whatever. And then you could put a search term in there or just search, and it'll find all these devices. So if I wanted to refine it a little bit, because I'd get a whole bunch, why don't I just get the building systems connected to the internet with the default password? That's pretty cool, right? So I press go, and I get a listing of all these systems and the links that would take me there. Now, not all of them resolve perfectly, but many of them do, and this is what we recommend you do for your own organization, is to find out within your IP range what is directly connected. I gave a presentation at another college, and I found that they were advertising a mechanic position for their HVAC system, right? And so for their cafeteria. And so I found out what system it was, what make and model it was, and I was able to find the IP address, and I found it was directly connected to the internet. This is from a job proposal for someone to work on that HVAC system from a college. They had no idea. Because is that within the realm of the CIO to look for? Absolutely not right now. So then, you know, worst case or best case, you get in here and you put in username and password, and if you don't know what it is and you want to reset it, sometimes you can do it this way. So that's not good. Then you get to look at the operator screens. You could change valve settings. You could change whether a elevator does what it's supposed to do, or other things. Then there's also, you could get in and turn things on and off at the VA clinic. So the kind of line down there says, I know we're going to say, well, the adversary is all over our network. Well, we've made it easy for them. I mean, let's not do that. Let's at least take a look at ourselves and try to figure out how we can at least make it a little harder for them to do, right? So a couple other things. So now everybody's got a smartphone, and that's great because they're smart. They're helping us be smarter. more organized and efficient? No? All right, well, if we doubt that for our personal lives, we're doing this for our work. We want to be able to control the nuclear power plant or wind turbine via our phone. And apps are out there for purchase. But when we looked at some of those, or there was an examination of those apps, they found a number of different problems. So again, this is not to say don't go this route. It is be mindful of the potential vulnerabilities if you do. So strategies. So each of the Department of Defense, they have a 2015 cybersecurity strategy, which is being rewritten and updated now. In fact, before I came out here, I was reviewing the 2018 version. So that should be out here in the next couple weeks. The Department of Energy put out theirs in March of this year, and Department of Homeland Security just published theirs last week. So a lot of great strategies. And here the DHS says, in the next 5 years, we're going to get some things done. Who thinks that's going to be adequate? Who thinks we should wait? So one of the things I recommend is you look at these, see how these align to your own strategies, what you can do in the interim to get to achieving some of these. So if I take a look I pull right off the home page of US Cybercom and their strategy. Here, they've got these milestones, and they've got the Cyber Mission Force and Cybersecurity Force. So how many of these folks have gone through control system cybersecurity training? Just a guess. How many? 5? 6? Hardly any. Some of them have been through, there's one course, there's a DHS ICS 301 course, and some of them have been through that. We do not have as rigorous of a training program for control systems as we have for traditional IT. Just quickly, in terms of the budget, your IT budget for the Department of Defense is $30 billion. For control systems, $150 million. And the IT inventory is $8 million. And we have 2 billion devices. So is that something, if that's going on in your organization, can you take that and try and convince them otherwise? If there was talk about solutions that are out there, a lot of people think VLANs are going to be good enough and just protect this. You go to YouTube, you can look up how you can get past that. The U.S. Air Force in April of this year put out a request for proposal to say, help me protect all my network, all control system networks across the entire Air Force. How many people saw this RFP? Okay, there were several, and there was like 8 companies, leads that went in, and I've already heard that 4 have already backed out. So they say it's too hard. But this is the state of the practice right now, is we're trying to figure out how to manage this and get all these things done. Just a couple more slides. So if anybody's heard of Black Hat or DEF CON, you want to do the control system one, here is S4 in Miami, Florida in January, which you'd all love to go. But here's what they do. At the bottom right-hand side, they get credit for putting their team name in the code of the PLC. They're doing this. This is not fantasy, and it's not taking weeks. They're doing that in days right now. Just got some other, you'll have these slides, but thermometers are being, if they're connected to your network, they can get into your IT infrastructure. If anybody skis and cares about the lifts, guess what? They're not secure. And then just one thing I really want to highlight is you all, who here cares about their credit score, financial credit score? Not everybody, okay, I'm not going to loan you guys any money. But, so there's a cyber trust scores that are going on there right now. And everybody has one. Whether you've paid for this service or not, if you have an IP range, you are being scored. And so here's a number of different systems. Here are different ranges from 300 to 900. Do you, as a good steward of your tax dollars, should I be doing business with anybody with a 390 score? what should be the cutoff? And if you're not monitoring the score, how do you know it's accurate? And so here are the things that they monitor, and you can get this, and you can follow up with me, and I can help you get an introduction to it. It's not that expensive, but these are some of the things, it'd be great. I mean, this is 313 movies are being transferred over this corporate network, and they're not aware of it. Anyway, so it's not all doom and gloom. We have a lot of best practices and things to get stuff in motion, but again, we need to figure out who's going to do it and actually implement these. So with that, I'll leave it open to questions.
Okay. We don't really have time left for questions right now, but I expect that you'd be available to talk to people when we break.
Absolutely.
Okay.